Hey, what is poppin' people? My name is Blank Page and welcome to my Hearthstone Blackrock Mountain tier list video. So hopefully you guys do enjoy. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new. And yeah, I think we're just going to jump right into this. We're going to tier the cards from S to D tier, S being the best and then D being the worst. So that said, we're just going to jump right into the first card. So starting us off in this video is Grim Patron. 5 mana, 3/3 neutral minion, and after this minion survives damage, you summon another Grim Patron. So this card back in the day was disgustingly broken with Warrior. Grim Patron Warrior was absolutely dominating back then. Nowadays, this card doesn't see any play at all. But back then, this card was so good. It was definitely a tier 1 deck back then. So because of that, because of its history with Grim Patron, and because the deck just got nerfed out of Oblivion, I think this card definitely deserves to be in the A tier, just because back then this card was just so incredibly good. So next up is Draconid Crusher, a 6 mana 6/6 neutral minion with the battle cry. If your opponent has 15 health or less, gain +3/+3. So this card wasn't all that bad, but it also wasn't like all that great. I did see it occasionally in some semi-aggressive decks, mostly in mid-range kind of decks. So with that said, I definitely think this card deserves to be in the B tier. Next up is Gang Up, a 2 mana rogue spell. Choose a minion and shuffle 3 copies of it into your deck. So this card is nasty. It was nasty then, it's nasty now. So this helped out Mill Rogue by shuffling in more Coldite Oracles into your deck. This helped Crystal Core Rogue. This helped out Pirate Rogue. This helped out Jade Rogue. This could help out any deck in which you want more copies of a minion into your deck. This even helped out Kingsbane Rogue and just Weapon Rogue in general. So I think Gang Up is definitely an S tier card just because it's so nasty. Especially a Mill Rogue and Kingsbane Rogue and Jade Rogue for sure. So with that said, yeah, definitely an S tier card with Grim Patron. Next up is Blackwing Corruptor, a 5 mana 5/4 neutral minion. Battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage. So this card did see some play back then. It doesn't see any play at all really nowadays. But I don't think it was a B or A tier card. I think this was more of a C tier card. So we're just going to put it right in there just because it didn't see as much play as Draconid Crusher. And yeah, because of that, I think it's definitely a C tier card. Next up is Volcanic Drake, a 6 mana 6/4 dragon neutral minion. This card costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. So you could theoretically get this card to cost like 1 mana, 0 mana. So this card did see a bit of play, and because of that, I'm definitely going to put it into the B tier. Next up is Revenge, a 2 mana spell. Deal 1 damage to all minions. If you have 12 or less health, deal 3 damage instead. So this card didn't see any play. Whirlwind was just a cheaper, better option. What if you didn't want to do 3 damage to all minions? What if they killed your own? What if you just want to do 1 damage and then, you know, draw from Acolyte of Pain, or just destroy your 1 health enemy minions, for example, while yours have like 2 health, or maybe they might have 3 health. So Revenge didn't see any play, and because of that, it is going to be in the D tier. Up next, we have Blackwing Technician, a 3 mana 2/4 neutral minion, and the battle cry is if you're holding a dragon, gain +1/+1. So you would put this into like Dragon Priest or just any other dragon deck or archetype, and it would then theoretically just be a 3 mana 3/5, which was insane to be a 3-drop. I run this in my Dragon Priest deck, and it still holds up today. It's such a great 3-drop. I mean, 3 mana 3/5 is just insane stats. So in all honesty, I think this is definitely an A tier card. Definitely not up there with Grim Patron and Gang Up. I don't think it's that disgustingly broken or that widely used, but it's definitely an A tier card for sure. Next up is Emperor Thorson, a 6 mana 5/5 neutral legendary minion. At the end of your turn, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1. So this is a repeated effect as long as Emperor Thorson lives. So this card is nasty. This helps out combo decks extremely well. Like, it allows you to pull off combos that before were not possible. And because of him, he made so many decks viable and possible, and so many decks better. He helped out Malygos decks, he helped out Antonidas decks, opened the Waygate decks, he helped out Reno Lock decks, Evian Kun Cthulhu decks later on, and so many other different kind of combo-oriented decks where you guys need to play several different cards in one turn to do an OTK or like a really big swing turn. So with that said, I think Emperor Thorson is definitely an S tier card without a doubt. This card is just insanely broken and insanely great in every possible way. It's uninteractable on the first turn you guys play it, and then if it like survives, or if you guys can resurrect the card, you can just keep decreasing the cost of cards in your hand until they're theoretically 0 cost, and then you guys can do one huge swing turn. Next up is Axeflinger, a 4-mana 2/5 warrior card. Whenever this minion takes damage, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So this card did see some play with like whirlwind effects and just other effects that could damage minions. And then he would end up hitting the opponent's face for 2 damage, which was, you know, a little bit of chip off damage, not that much, but not that little, I guess, at the same time. But this card didn't really see all that much play. But with that said, he did see a little bit. He's kind of like a Blackwing Corruptor in that sense. So he is going to be in the C tier. Next up is Hungry Dragon, a 4-mana 5/6 neutral dragon. Battlecry, summon a random 1-cost minion for your opponent. This card didn't see any play. Turns out giving your opponent a card to play with isn't that great of an idea, even if it's just a 1-cost card. It could be like a taunt card, like Void Stalker, for example, or it could be like a Divine Shield minion. You know, it could be something that is an S tier 1 cost card, which, you know, isn't very good for you to do. So honestly, its Battlecry held it back without a doubt. I mean, a 5/6 with that Battlecry needed to happen, otherwise this card would be busted. But because of it also, it saw no play. So it is a D tier dragon, unfortunately. Next up is Fireguard Destroyer, a 4-mana 3/6 elemental for Shaman. Battlecry, gain 1 to 4 damage, then you overload for 1. This card didn't see very much play at all, even in overload Shaman decks or in aggressive Shaman decks. It did see a little bit of play, and because of that, I'm going to put it in the C tier. Next up is Dragon's Breath, a 5-mana mage spell. Deal 4 damage, and it costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. So Dragon's Breath was used a little bit as a removal spell for mage, and because of that, it's definitely a C tier card. I don't think it's a B, A, or S tier card, but I don't think it's a D tier card at all. It did see a little bit of play, and it was definitely tested out in some decks, so it's definitely a C tier card. Up next is Quickshot, a 2-mana hunter spell. Deal 3 damage, and if your hand is empty, you draw a card. So this card was really, really good in aggressive hunter decks or in beast hunter decks. It did 3 damage, and if your hand was empty, you still did 3 damage. And if your hand was subsequently, unfortunately, empty, you did gain the bonus of drawing an extra card. And this card is only 2 mana. So if your hand is empty, you're most likely have more mana to spend. So you can theoretically draw into another Quickshot, or you can draw into some aggressive card that could hit your opponent's face, or clear their board, or, you know, do something else that is really good on a turn. So I think this is a A tier card just because it was widely used, and it was a really good card with a great effect. Up next is Twilight Whelp, a 1-mana 2/1 dragon for Priest. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +2 health. So this card did see a lot of play in Dragon Priest. Theoretically, it was a 1-mana 2/3 dragon, which was a really good turn 1 play for Dragon Priest, and it still is today. So that said, I think it is a A tier card, just because a 1-mana 2/3 has great survivability, has great offense, and it can just end up helping you out in the second turn or even the third turn sometimes, and it can stick around until then, most likely. So yeah, definitely an A tier card. Up next is Imp Gang Boss, a 3-mana 2/4 demon for Warlock. Whenever this minion takes damage, summon a 1/1 Whelp. So this card was decent and it saw a fair amount of play. So with that said, I definitely think it was a B tier card. Next up is Rend Blackhand, a 7-mana neutral legendary with the battle cry, if you're holding a dragon, destroy a legendary minion. So this card hasn't seen very much play, even in dragon decks. This turns out other removals are better than it, and they're cheaper, more efficient to do. Even if he has stats to go along with the removal, it's just he's not very much used at all. There's just different methods that are better. So that said, he is a D tier card. Up next is Nefarian, a 9-mana 8/8 neutral dragon. Battlecry, add 2 random spells to your hand. So here we are with the boss of the Blackrock Mountain expansion. And he was a decent dragon. He was just a little bit too high cost, and his effect wasn't impacting enough. So with that said, Nefarian turns out to be a D tier card. Up next is Dark Iron Skulker, a 5-mana 4/3 rogue card. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all undamaged enemy minions. So this is basically just a backstab with a body to go with it. This card did see a little bit of play, but not very much at all. So with that said, this card is a C tier card. Up next is one of Mage's most broken cards ever, Flame Waker. A 3-mana 2/4, after you cast a spell, deal 2 damage randomly split among all enemies. So this card can just clear off a board if you have a bunch of cheap cost spells in your hand. It can also deal face damage, which subsequently led Tempo Mage or the Secret Mage to high success rates. Even now, this card is just insanely busted in those kind of decks where your prime objective is just to do face damage and just overall control the board entirely. So Flame Waker is an S tier card for sure. He is a busted mage card for sure. Up next is Dragon Egg, a 1-mana 0/2 neutral minion. Whenever this minion takes damage, summon a 2/1 Whelp. This card didn't see very much play at all. Even now, it doesn't see much play at all, even in egg decks. So this card is a D tier card, unfortunately. Up next, we have Core Rager, another Rager, a 4-mana 4/4 beast one. If your hand is empty, gain +3/+3. I don't believe this card saw any play. Unfortunately, having the effect of having buff stats while your hand is empty isn't that great. So this card is a D tier card. Here we have Druid of the Flame, a 3-mana 2/2 with the effect choose one. Transform into a 5/2 minion or a 2/5 minion. So this card saw a lot of play. It could go into more controlling style decks, or it could go into more aggressive style decks based on which one you want to choose depending on the situation of the board state you're in. So obviously I think this is an A tier card. It was used quite often, and it still is used quite often today in choose one decks as well. Here we got Kin Sorcerer, a 4-mana 3/5 neutral dragon. Whenever you target this minion with a spell, give it +1/+1. So I've only really seen this card in priest decks or in paladin decks, cards that namely have spells that can upgrade your minion's attack or health. So, but with that said, this card hasn't seen any play at all. So with that said, it is a D tier card. Up next is Lava Shock, a 2-mana shaman spell. Deal 2 damage and then unlock your overloaded mana crystals. So this card was great in overload shaman or just aggressive shaman decks in general. So this was definitely a B tier card. Here we got Volcanic Lumberer, a 9-mana 7/8 taunt for Druid. This card costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. So this card just didn't see very much play at all. So with that said, Volcanic Lumberer is a D tier card. Here we got Chromagus, a 8-mana 6/8 legendary neutral dragon. Whenever you draw a card, put another copy of it into your hand. So Chromagus, I always thought was a really, really great dragon and a really great legendary. You could get 2 combo pieces into your hand for the price of just drawing 1 card, or just like a really good high cost card. You can put 2 of it into your hand so that you have 2 like you have tempo for 2 turns in a row with just a busted ass legendary or epic card. So with that said, I think Chromagus is definitely a tier card. I don't think it's on par with Flamewaker, Gang Up, Grim Patron, or Emperor Thorson. I don't think its effect is as game-changing as those guys' effects are, but he's definitely, I think, an A tier card, just because having 2 copies of a card whenever you draw is really great. Up next we have Solemn Vigil, a 5 mana paladin card. Draw 2 cards, and this card itself costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. This card didn't see very much play at all. With that said, I'm going to put it into the C tier. Here we got Major Domo Executus, a 9 mana 9/7 neutral legendary with a death rattle. Replace your hero with Ragnaros, the Fire Lord. So this card didn't see very much play at all. With that said, I think it is a C tier card. Its effect, it just wasn't very good. Sometimes it would make your health go less. Sometimes it would actually help you out in the late game, but sometimes it would also just kill you. And this card is just a very high mana cost card with an effect that wasn't game-changing enough for it to be more viable in decks to be used. If you look at any meta decks, they don't run Major Domo Executus, even though it is a neutral legendary minion, so it can be put into any deck. But unfortunately, it wasn't put into any decks, really. The only decks I can really think of that used this card was Warlock-themed decks around demons or around outlasting your opponent. Here we got Dragon Consort, a 5 mana 5/5 Paladin Dragon with the battle cry, the next dragon you play costs 2 less. This card did see a little bit of play in Dragon Paladin decks, and with that said, I definitely think it is a B tier card. Second to last, we got Resurrect, a 2 mana priest spell card with the effect summon a random friendly minion that died this game. So this card definitely gave birth to a whole archetype, a whole deck theme around resurrecting the cards that died this game. So this gave birth to Taunt Priest, it gave birth to Resurrection Priest, Infinity Taunt Priest. This card, along with other resurrection-themed effects, gave birth to a whole archetype around Priest, resurrecting cards from the dead that either were taunt cards or that were cards with great stats or great abilities. So with that said, I think Resurrect is definitely an S tier card. Lastly, we got Demon Wrath, a 3 mana warlock spell. Deal 2 damage to all minions except demons. So this card didn't see very much play at all, unfortunately. It did see a bit of play in Demon Lock, but besides that, and a little bit in maybe Zoo, but besides that, Demon Wrath just didn't see any play at all. So with that said, I think I'm just going to put it in the C tier. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Blackrock Mountain ranked from S to D tier. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Make sure you guys post down a comment in this comment section down below about what cards do you think are S tier, what cards are in the D tier, and somewhere in between as well. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope to catch you guys in the next video. Take care, and as always, peace out.